hope you're all doing really well and welcome to my spoiler-free review of Spear by Nicola Griffiths. So just a quick thank you to NetGalley and to the publishers for providing me with an e-arc of this book. So this book kind of came onto my radar because of the cover basically. It's designed by, or at least illustrated by, Ravina Kai, who's one of my favourite illustrators. She did the illustrations for And the Ocean Was Our Sky by Patrick Ness, as well as the cover for The Book of Dragons and to the cover of Alatsaway as well. So because I follow her on Instagram and stuff, but every time she designs a book cover, obviously she posts it, and that kind of puts the book on my radar. So after checking out the synopsis of this book, I thought it sounded really interesting, and when I was looking at titles that were available on NetGalley, I was very lucky to get approved for an advanced copy of this book. So the synopsis is a young girl lives in a cave with her mother, kind of secluded from the outside world, and kind of hearing some stories of her mother's life before this and how she ended up there. And kind of growing up alongside this beautiful cup that her mother has taken, and kind of admiring it. Growing older, and she starts pushing the boundaries of her secluded world, and the girl learns of other humans, of the King Arturus and his companions, and of how they fight for what is right and just, and she kind of, as she gets older, decides that she actually wants to go and join this group of the Knights of the Round Table and be one of those companions to the king who fight for justice and all sorts. And that's basically it, you know, thus begins the tale of Peretur and how she goes into the world to do good and be worthy of the king. So obviously it's a contribution to the myth of King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table, in particular, sort of going off of this kind of character mentioned in various tales that refer to Arthur and stuff. Peretur meaning spear, I think it is. And I like how the author kind of went with that character instead of perhaps one of the more well-known ones. My general thoughts on this book, I really liked it. It was short and sweet, which I appreciated. You know, actually I was halfway through Wizard and Glass by Stephen King by this point, and that had taken me over a month really to wade my way through. I found that a really difficult book to get through, so the fact that I had this book that was just a couple of hundred pages, really easy to read, really easy to get through, you know, I really appreciated being able to read something that was really digestible. And it gets to its point very quickly, which I do appreciate. I liked his contribution to the mythos of Arthur. I don't know loads of the myths of Arthur in the Knights of the Round Table, I just kind of know the general stuff and things, but I liked his contribution and his contribution to the Holy Grail as well. But this time from the point of view from a lesser known character. As I said, you know, Peretur is mentioned in various texts and stuff from the mythos of Arthur and stuff. And as well, the author also did her best to be really accurate as well in terms of, you know, the medieval setting and things, which I really found, yeah, I really appreciated that, you know, right down to the fact that actually the horse riders don't have stirrups at this point because they haven't really been invented, or at least not widely used, and the way Peretur fixes her spears and her sword and her armour and stuff, and how she sort of takes care of things. You know, just those little details as well just really helped sell the world that we're living in this book. As I said, you know, the plot basically follows our character, initially nameless, as she grows up in a secret cave with her mother, learning how to explore the world around her without being seen by anywhere else. She grows up and leaves, deciding that she wants to join the companions of the king and must create a following of people who know her good deeds so that she may come before the king with honour. I felt like the plot was a very gentle progression of one thing to another. One thing I find about this book, that it was very, you know, it felt very much like a storytelling. You know, these things have happened, we don't need to be like, ooh, what's going to happen next? You know, this is what happened, and this is what happened, and this is what happened. And whilst usually I do find that kind of detracts from the story, I feel like it works in this sense because of the sort of time period and because of the texts that it's influenced by. You know, it very much felt like you were almost reading something that could have been written back in that time, at least in terms of style. You know, it didn't make the book boring nor static, which we thought was really, you know, just really clever and quite difficult, I think, to pull off with this sort of writing style. So, you know, props to the author for managing that. There's a lack of tension, as I said, but it is kind of good because it helps kind of reflect just what kind of story the author was writing. But at the same time, I would say that I did feel really detached from characters and the plot. As I said, there is no tension, there are no stakes. There's not much plot-wise to really keep you invested, apart from just the progression of the story and just wanting to know what happens next. You know, there are no stakes save for perhaps the possibility of Peretur's identity as a woman being revealed. Obviously she does go around masquerading as a man, but even that doesn't feel like it's too big of a problem. It makes for a very strange reading experience because you almost know exactly how the story is going to go. You know, there is none of that, oh, I don't know what's going to happen next. Like, you don't know what's going to happen next, but you're not worried about it, if that makes any sense. Things are resolved very quickly. Just, yeah, even up to like the big confrontation in the book and the climax of the book, it doesn't feel like that, because it's just sort of, oh, and then this happens and it was resolved, and then it was just kind of a bit, I don't know. Yeah, just not, it was a very it wasn't a very modern way of writing a story, which is fine, but as I said, there was just no stakes or tension. Peritor is a great main character. I enjoyed seeing her grow up and go out into the world and how she dealt with kind of all the things life threw at her. I liked how it explored her relationship with her mother, and it had a lot of nuances to it, you know, understanding that her mother was both loving and abusive, and Peritor still loves her for the care and love she did receive from her, even though she is able to understand that her mother didn't treat her as she should have. The sense of identity and belonging is a huge part of Peritor's character as well, and I liked how the book used it to progress the narrative as well as Peritor's own art. I liked how she was gay and how that was handled within this time period. You know, with her needing to hide it, but finding many women who reciprocated her feelings without it being made a big deal of or something, you know. And you often, I think, find with historical LGBTQ plus characters, it's very much the, oh, the shame of it, whereas, you know, she never feels ashamed for how she feels. It's just a case of, right, it might just cause more problems than it's worth, so I'll just keep it on the down low, but hey, look, here's all these women that completely reciprocate my feelings. Who knew? You know, I liked her relationship with Nimue, and Nimue is a character as well who comes in later, and how that developed and what it meant for her character. In general as well, I just enjoyed following Peritor as she learned how to fight, how to defend herself, as well as how to kill. The book took the time to see her learn and grow from what she's learned and stuff. You definitely feel that there's a passage of time happening, and you see her, you know, start to learn something and then get better and then master her skill and stuff. It doesn't feel like she just walks out into the world with all these sorts of abilities and things. She has learned how to fight and how to do all these things. And her magic as well, because Peritor has sort of magic where she can listen and she can hear things in scents and sounds and the way people talk and stuff. You know, I liked how we saw her use that to her advantage in a fight, or just in general, to just trying to understand other people. You know, she's grown up with this magic and sense as a part of her, so it makes sense that it's a huge part of how she just navigates the world around her. You know, it's like breathing to her. It's just another way for her to interact with people and understand things that are going on. I would say that she has very few flaws, which does make her feel a bit too perfect, protagonist type thing. Any flaws she has is due to immaturity, and even then they're kind of painted as a reasonable flaw. So if you like your characters that have more interesting character dynamic, you know, with more flaws and more mistakes and stuff, and this probably isn't the book for you. The ending as well, it's quite abrupt, you know, as I said, because the climax doesn't really feel like a tense, high-stakes climax. There's just not really a sense of achievement sometimes at the end, and it's a bit weird. It just kind of ends, and I couldn't even tell you really what happens at the end. It just kind of stops. But overall, it's just a really, really enjoyable read. It was short, which I think was good, as I would have struggled with a longer book in that sort of style. But a good contribution to the stories of Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table and the Holy Grail and stuff, and I liked how the author chose Peritor as her focus. Some issues for me personally, but yeah, as I said, just still a really, really enjoyable book. I read it in one go. I might read it again, you know, it was really enjoyable. But thank you for watching. Has anybody else received an arc of Peritor's story in Spear? What did you think of it? Let me know down in the comments. If you're interested in reading this book, I believe it is out in March sometime. I'll leave the release date up here. So definitely go check it out if it sounds like something you're interested in. If you reach the end of the video, feel free to leave a like and feel free to subscribe. I post 2 videos a week. But thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.